Legends spoke of the Nebulas Maw, a Venator-class Star Destroyer lost adrift in the uncharted territories of the Outer Rim. Its exact coordinates were myth, its potential salvage immense. Whispers claimed it was a ghost ship. Cursed. Yet the allure was strong, too strong for some. It promised riches or a quick, silent end. Many had sought it. Few, if any, had returned to tell a coherent tale. The Maw was a siren's call in the deep black, a challenge to the bold and the desperate. Its name alone conjured images of a vast, consuming entity. The Outer Rim hid many secrets. The Nebulas Maw was one of its darkest. It lay far from established hyperspace lanes, deep within a dense, swirling nebula that gave it its ominous name. Navigation charts of this region were unreliable, riddled with anomalies. Sensors often failed, ships simply vanished. The nebula itself seemed alive. It pulsed with strange energies. It was a perfect hiding place for a derelict warship, or a perfect graveyard. The Maw had become part of this stellar tomb, waiting patiently. Jax knew the risks. He always did. His crew was a collection of individuals hardened by experience, ex-smugglers who knew how to evade patrols, prospectors who could sniff out value in the most desolate places. They were not soldiers, not heroes, they were survivors. Each had their reasons for signing on, debts to pay, a past to escape, or simply the thrill of the unknown, the gamble for a life-altering score. They trusted Jax's instincts most of the time. This particular venture, however, tested even their hardened nerves. Their ship, was a modified freighter. Ugly but reliable, it cut through the void, towards the coordinates Jax had bartered for. The information was sketchy, possibly fabricated, but it was the best lead they had. The potential reward from a Venator, even a derelict one, was astronomical, enough to set them all up for life, or so they hoped. The Nebulas Maw represented a monumental gamble, a final, grand undertaking that could either make them legends or statistics. The silence on the bridge was thick with anticipation and a shared, unspoken fear. The Nebulas Maw loomed, larger than any of them had imagined. It filled the viewport, a colossal silhouette against the vibrant, chaotic backdrop of the nebula. Its grey hull was scarred, pitted by micrometeoroids and unknown weapons fire. Sections were dark, lifeless, no running lights, no energy signatures, just silence. A profound, unnerving silence that seemed to absorb the light around it. It drifted aimlessly, a ghost of the republic it once served, a monument to some forgotten catastrophe. The sheer scale was intimidating. Jax maneuvered with practiced ease. He found a breach in the hangar bay, a gaping wound in the side of the massive vessel. Perfect for entry or a trap. Kale, watch the scanners. Lyra, prep the boarding ramp. We go in quiet, Jax ordered. His voice was calm, but his eyes scanned the derelict, searching for any sign of life or threat. The airlock hissed. The ramp extended. It clanged against the cold deck of the Venator. An unnatural chill wafted from the opening. It carried a faint, metallic and unsettlingly organic scent. Inside, emergency lights cast long dancing shadows. Dust lay thick, like a shroud. The air was stale, recycled too many times, or perhaps not recycled at all for a very long time. The corridors were eerily quiet. Only the hum of their own life support systems broke the silence. Then they saw the first signs. Blaster scorches on the bulkheads, not clean, messy, desperate. Strange symbols were scrawled on some walls, unfamiliar, disturbing. A sense of profound wrongness began to creep into their minds. This was no ordinary derelict. A low groan echoed from a side passage, too guttural, too pained. It was not the sound of a wounded survivor. Jack signaled for caution. They advanced slowly, weapons raised. Around a corner they saw them. Figures in tattered clone trooper armor, but twisted. Their skin was grey, eyes vacant or burning with a faint sickly light. They moved with a jerky, unnatural gait. These were not men, not anymore. They were puppets. Reanimated horrors. The Nebulas Maw had begun to reveal its terrible secrets. The silence was broken by the hiss of blasters charging. The first zombie-like clone trooper lunged. Its movements were clumsy yet surprisingly fast. Jax fired. The blue blaster bolt struck its chest. It barely flinched. Another groan. More figures shuffled into view from doorways, from shadowy alcoves. They were relentless. Their tattered armor offered little protection, but they seemed to feel no pain. Lyra screamed as one grabbed at her leg. Kale blasted its head. It fell, but another took its place. The narrow corridor became a kill zone. A desperate close-quarters firefight erupted. Blaster fire filled the air, searing light, the smell of ozone and something else. something rotten. Jax barked orders. Fall back to the junction, create a choke point. His crew, though not soldiers, knew how to fight for their lives. They laid down covering fire, retreating step by step. The clones kept coming, their numbers seemed endless. Each one that fell was quickly replaced by another. Their only sounds were guttural moans and the scrape of their boots on the deck plating. The initial hope of salvage was rapidly turning into a nightmare of survival. As they fought, Jax felt it. A cold presence, a dark weight in the Force. He was no Jedi. But he had brushed against its edges enough times in the Outer Rim. This was different, ancient, malevolent. It was not just random reanimation. Something was guiding these undead troopers. An intelligence, a will. The clones were merely its puppets, its decaying, unthinking soldiers. The realization sent a fresh wave of dread through him. They were not just fighting mindless monsters. They were fighting something far more sinister, something with a purpose. The pressure was immense. Ammunition was running low. One of their crew, a young Rhodian named Teak, went down. A clone overwhelmed him before anyone could react. There was no time to mourn. They had to keep moving. They had to find the source of this corruption, or escape it. Pushing deeper seemed like madness. Yet retreating through the growing horde felt equally impossible. The ship itself felt like it was closing in on them. The whispers of the Maw were becoming screams. The true horror was yet to be fully unveiled. Driven by a desperate need to understand, or perhaps to find a less congested escape route, Jax led his remaining crew towards the ship's command bridge. The resistance lessened slightly as they moved away from the main hangar areas, or perhaps the controlling intelligence was drawing them in. The feeling of the dark presence intensified. It was a palpable miasma of hatred and corrupted power. It clawed at their minds, whispering promises, threatening oblivion. The air grew colder. The shadows seemed to deepen, to writhe with unseen things. They reached the main engineering bay, not the bridge, but a vast cathedral-like space. Here, the source of the nightmare pulsed. It was not a single being, not anymore. It was a grotesque fusion of organic matter, twisted metal and crackling dark-side energy. Mangled bodies, clone and perhaps others, were fused into a central pulsating mass. Tendrils of dark energy snaked out from it, connecting to conduits and, horrifyingly, to the fallen troopers scattered around. This was the heart of the Nebulas Maw, a force-fueled abomination. It radiated pure malice. The abomination sensed them. A wave of psychic force slammed into them. It was raw, uncontrolled, filled with pain and rage. The remaining undead clones in the area stirred, their heads snapping towards the intruders. There was no fighting this, not directly, not for them. "We can't beat that thing!" Lyra yelled, her voice strained. "We need to get out of here, now!" Jax knew she was right. This was beyond salvage, beyond anything they had ever encountered. This was a galactic-level threat, a plague waiting to be unleashed. They fought their way back, a desperate, running battle, through corridors now teeming with the reanimated. Each turn was a gamble, every shadow a potential enemy. They reached the by sheer luck and grim determination. Blasting the ramp controls, they sealed themselves in as undead hands clawed at the hull. Jax pushed the engines to their limit. The freighter lurched, tearing free from the Nebulas Maw. As they sped away, the derelict Star Destroyer hung in the void, a silent, brooding horror. They had escaped, but the image of the abomination was seared into their minds. They had to warn someone. They had to ensure that the Maw and its unholy cargo were destroyed before its nightmare spread beyond the nebula.
Ah.